They find the cave at midday, when the sun is a merciless hammer on the open savanna. For a clan of nomadic Homo sapiens, constantly moving across this vast African landscape, a shelter of this quality is a prize beyond measure. It is not a shallow overhang or a cramped fissure, but a true cavern. Its mouth a great, dark yawn in the side of a limestone kopje. The air that breathes from it is cool and smells of damp earth and something else. Something musky and ancient. It is a promise of shade, of safety from the prowling hyenas of the night, and, most importantly, of a permanent place to call home. The children, emboldened by the daylight, are the first to venture in, their excited calls echoing in the vast, cathedral-like space. The hunters follow, their spears held ready, their eyes slowly adjusting to the gloom. The main chamber is immense, larger than any space they have ever inhabited. The floor is covered in a thick, powdery layer of a strange, dark soil that crunches underfoot. Piled high against the walls are mounds of this dark earth, some as tall as a man. The hunters, pragmatic students of the natural world, scoop up handfuls. It is rich in nitrates. Potent, they see its value. For all its strangeness, the cave is a fortress. They have found their sanctuary. As evening approaches, a new mood settles over the clan. The setting sun paints the savanna in hues of orange and purple. The women build a fire near the cave mouth. Its light is small, flickering bubble of warmth against the encroaching darkness. This is the moment of contentment, the reward at the end of a long, hard journey. But as the last sliver of the sun disappears below the horizon, the cave begins to breathe. A low, humming sound emanates from the deep blackness of the main chamber. A sound that grows steadily in volume, accompanied by a faint, dry, rustling noise, like 1,000 autumn leaves skittering across rock. Then, the river flows. It is not a river of water. It is a river of black, winged bodies. From the dark heart of the cave, a trickle of bats becomes a torrent, a living vortex that pours out into the twilight sky. It is a single entity, a cohesive, swirling mass of tens of thousands of individual creatures moving as one. A terrifying living cloud, a superorganism. The sound is a deafening, high minor pitched chittering, a sensory assault that overwhelms the ears. The air is thick with the beat of leathery wings and the musky, acrid smell they now recognize from the dark soil. The clan is frozen, their faces upturned, bathed in the firelight. Their expressions a mixture of and absolute, primal terror. This is not a hunt. This is not a storm. This is something utterly outside their experience. This is the emotional turning point. Their perfect shelter is not empty. It is the womb of a monster. A gateway that vomits forth a living piece of the night, in a world where every rock, every tree, and every gust of wind has a spirit. There is only one possible explanation for what they are seeing. These are not animals. They are the spirits of the dead, pouring from a hole in the earth. Their new home is a gateway to the underworld. The night is a siege. The clan huddles around their fire, a small, terrified island in a sea of encroaching dread. They do not sleep. Every shadow seems to writhe with wings, and every gust of wind carries the phantom sound of a million chittering voices. The river of spirits flowed for what felt like an eternity before the sky was finally empty. But the psychic wound it left is deep and festering. Their will, which had a brutal but understandable logic, has been shattered. This is the very genesis of belief. A moment in the deep history of prehistory where the unknown is so overwhelming it can only be processed through the lens of the supernatural. This is the birth of a god, or a demon. The clan's elder, a woman named Aya, is their anchor in the storm of fear. Her face, a mask of wrinkles, is grim in the firelight. She is the keeper of their stories, the interpreter of signs, while the others see only a terrifying spectacle. Her mind is working, searching for response, a way to impose human will onto a supernatural event. Her understanding of the world is a form of early animism. She believes the cave is not just a place, but a being, and its spirit is sick, The river of bats is a symptom of its illness, a flow of dark energy that must be staunched. This is a critical moment for the community, a test of their collective will. As the first light of dawn paints the sky grey, Saya gathers the hunters. She does not speak of bats. She speaks of shadows, of a wound in the earth that must be cauterized. Her plan is a piece of powerful, symbolic logic. If the spirits emerge with the darkness, they must be met with light. If they are creatures of the air, they must be fought with smoke. She leads the clan in a day of frantic preparation, a testament to their faith in her vision. They gather wood, not just for a cooking fire, but for a wall of flame. They collect armfuls of damp, green leaves and grasses, not for bedding, but to create a choking, acrid smoke. This is primitive technology repurposed for a spiritual war. This is an exorcism. As dusk approaches again, they are ready. They have built a line of bonfires just outside the cave mouth, a barrier of light and heat. The women and children stand behind it, their faces painted with streaks of ash for protection. She and the strongest hunters stand at the ready with torches and bundles of damp leaves. They are not hunting an animal. They are fighting a nightmare. The familiar, low hum begins to emanate from the cave. The air grows tense. Aya gives a sharp cry. The hunters throw the green leaves onto the fires. Sick. Billowing clouds of white smoke rise, fouling the air, creating a pungent, choking scream. The river begins to flow. The bats pour from the cave mouth, a living torrent of blackness, straight into the wall of fire and smoke. The effect is chaotic. The lead bouts, hitting the unexpected heat and thick smoke. Fear wildly. The cohesive flow of the superorganism is disrupted. The air fills with the sounds of panicked, high-minus pitched squeaks and the dry snap of wings singed by flame. The clan shouts, banging their spears against the rocks, adding to the cacophony. For a moment, it seems to be working. They are holding back the night. But the river is too vast, too powerful. It is a force of nature, and their wall of fire is just a fragile, temporary dam. The swarm, in its sheer, overwhelming numbers, simply flows over and around their barrier, a black tide that cannot be turned. The assault fails, but it changes the equation. The clan stands panting, their faces streaked with sodden sweat, and watches as the last of the bat swarm disappears into the darkening sky. The river could not be stopped, but they have proven that it is not untouchable. They have met the river of spirits with their own brand of power, fire, smoke, and the unyielding force of their collective will. They have not won, but they have not been annihilated either. This hard -1 stalemate is a crucial step in their psychological survival. The terror of the unknown has been replaced by the tactical challenge of a known, if still terrifying, enemy. They do not try to remine the center of the main cavern. The smoke from the fires, clinging to the damp air, has poured back into it, creating a choking, unbreathable space. The bitter smell of their spiritual war now fouls their sanctuary. It is an act of accidental genius. They have made the heart of the cave uninhabitable not just for themselves, but perhaps for the spirits as well. One of the younger hunters, scouting the edges of the kopje for a new place to shelter for the night, finds a second, smaller entrance, half-minus hidden by a curtain of vines. Cautiously, they enter. It leads not to the vast, smoke-minus-filled main chamber, but to a smaller, adjacent cave, connected to the larger one only by a narrow, high fissure. The air here is clear and cool, and the floor is clean, free of the thick layers of guano. This is their hard -1 equilibrium. They have found a way to inhabit the fortress without having to live inside its dark, beating heart. From the safety of this new chamber, they can hear the nightly exodus, a muffled, distant roar rather than a terrifying, immediate assault. This is a profound example of adaptive behavior. Unable to defeat the overwhelming force of nature, they have found a way to coexist with it. They have partitioned their world, ceding the main cavern to the spirits of the twilight, while claiming a small, defensible piece for themselves. This compromise is a form of unspoken truce. In the days that follow, a new culture forms around this truce. The main cave becomes a sacred, forbidden place. Seol, her authority now absolute, leads rituals at its entrance. They leave offerings of bright stones and the occasional piece of meat, acts of appeasement to the spirits they share their home with. The children race the shapes of the bats onto the walls of their new, smaller chamber, using lumps of charcoal and reed ochre. It is not a depiction of an animal they hunt. It is a portrait of a god they fear, an attempt to capture its terrifying power. To understand it, this act of artistic creation, born of terror and awe, is a hallmark of the evolving human mind. Their survival now hinges on this delicate balance of avoidance and reverence. They have learned that some forces of nature cannot be conquered, only accommodated. They have turned their fear into a religion, and their home into a temple. It is a solution that would allow them to endure, to raise their children, and to tell the story of the day a river of spirits first flew from the earth. We pull back from the flickering firelight, from the red ochre drawings on the cave wall, and see this small clan of Homo sapiens not as victors, but as tenants in a world they are only just beginning to comprehend. The war against the bats was a failure of tactics but a profound success of adaptation. Unable to change the world, they changed their minds. They transformed a terrifying ecological reality into a manageable supernatural belief. This is the genius and the power of the human brain. We are storytellers, and our ability to weave narratives around the things we cannot control is perhaps our greatest survival tool. The bats were never spirits. They were a keystone species in a complex local paleoecology. But to see them as animals would have required a scientific framework that was millennia away. To see them as spirits was a practical, immediate solution. It created rules, rituals, and boundaries that allowed for coexistence. Every religion, every myth, every story we tell ourselves about the forces that move the world has its deepest roots in moments like this, in the pragmatic necessity of finding a story that lets us get through the night. The first gods were not born of love, but of a negotiation with fear. But what happens when the fear is not a swarm, but a sickness from within?